What's up, YouTube? Eric here, Mr. Fired Up Wealth. This is going to be a fun one. Now, all three of these stocks we've already covered in the AI series, but there's been an important announcement in the last day or so that kind of is a game changer. And if you remember, I did a video on the channel that was Crowdstrike versus SentinelOne. I compared the two stocks before SentinelOne went public with their IPO. So today I'm going to actually compare SentinelOne and Crowdstrike. I'm going to give you some opinions, and I want to first, before I do that, I want to just give you facts. So I'm going to be as neutral as I can on this. I don't want to take a side. I want to give you the information and the data so I can help you with your due diligence so you can make your own decision on what to do with your own portfolio and if you want to buy any of these stocks or not. So at the end, I'll give you opinions, but I want to give you all the facts and give you a snapshot comparison. Now, last time when we did SentinelOne versus Crowdstrike, it was really focused on the fundamentals, and it really went into a deep dive of what both those companies do and just some high-level financial data as well. And that's about a 30-minute video, and you can check it out on the channel. That's the first volume of Crowdstrike versus SentinelOne. This is part two, a follow-up to that video, and it includes a third stock, UiPath, which really could be a game changer for Crowdstrike. So let's get into this. If you're new to the series, this is a top 12 high-growth AI stock series. Now, it's not your large mega cap type stocks. It's off the radar AI stocks with high growth, okay? And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the channel. You'll definitely love the videos on the channel. If you like this one, check out the playlist, and I appreciate the support. So before I even get started, guys, I want to make this quick announcement. If you're not familiar with who I am, just really quick. So I used to work in the software industry for about 10 years. And I've worked with a lot of these companies, okay? I'm also a multi-million-dollar investor. I invest my own portfolio. I've got a taxable brokerage that I talk about on the account, as well as retirement and other assets and businesses. So I have been an entrepreneur now for many years. I've been very successful. I'm financially independent, and I do this YouTube really because I enjoy it. So that's kind of my background, guys. Definitely subscribe to the channel. I try to focus on high growth, but also dividend stocks, and really just outperform the market so you can retire early and enjoy life, okay? So that's kind of the plug about who I am. Let's get into business. SentinelOne versus Crowdstrike. Let's go through some high-level numbers. Some of these numbers might be a little bit surprising to you maybe. So at $52.50, that's a $13.6 billion market cap for SentinelOne. The stock ticker is just S. Okay, the revenue last quarter was about $45.75 million. Now, the price to sales ratio for SentinelOne is 82. That's very, very expensive. 82 price to sales ratio. Crowdstrike at $250 a share, the market cap is just over $57 billion, okay? But their revenue last quarter was $337.69 million. So look at the difference there. Market cap, $13.6 billion on SentinelOne, with last quarter $45 million in revenue. Crowdstrike is obviously a much bigger market cap at $57 billion, but they also had $337 million in revenue last quarter. Now, if you're a value investor, you've already had a heart attack and you're out of here because both of these stocks are crazy expensive. But which one's the better stock to own and which one's more expensive? That's really what I want to get at here. Now, Crowdstrike has a 49 price to sales ratio, so you can see SentinelOne is actually trading at a premium, and it has come back quite a bit. At $52.50 a share, it was running a lot hotter than that, and it's pulled back significantly from its highs. In fact, SentinelOne was trading over $70 a share, like $72 and change per share. So it was pretty expensive at $72, and it's pulled back significantly, and that's why I wanted to make this video, because you might be looking at it and saying, well, where would you buy it? Did Eric buy this stock? Does he own it? I'm long on Crowdstrike. You already know that. I'm long on UiPath. Have I bought any SentinelOne in the last few days on the dip? I'll share that with you here in a little bit and give you my opinions, okay? So going into this a little bit deeper, now Rule of 40, generally on the Rule of 40, this is a true Rule of 40 number, okay? That Rule of 40, you want it to be, that percentage, you want to be 40 or higher. If you're interested in knowing how that works, check out the channel. I've got some videos that explains it. Their net dollar retention rate for SentinelOne is 129%. Now, that is a very solid number. Essentially shows that there's been expansion. Now, if you look at different articles out there online, there's some articles that show that SentinelOne actually had a retraction in some of these retention rates. But as of most recent information, the most recent earnings that we have and everything, the net dollar retention has actually been pretty strong. And what that means is they're able to kind of land and expand. Now, CrowdStrike was winning in that land and expand category, but recently that's kind of pulled in favor of SentinelOne. So I'll get to that in a second. CrowdStrike Rule of 40 is 107. This is very solid. This is something that I want to own when it's at 107. Now, what I will say, some of the top performing stocks, you buy them when the Rule of 40 sometimes isn't 40 or over, and they grow into that valuation. And sometimes you can get good prices. The question is, though, is SentinelOne a good price? Do you want to pay this type of premium based on what we know today? Now, the net dollar retention on CrowdStrike is about the same, but it is a little bit less at 125% versus that 129 on SentinelOne. One thing to note here, CrowdStrike is expected to grow at approximately mid 60% compound annual growth rate for this fiscal year. That's about half of the growth rate of SentinelOne. So SentinelOne's growing at almost double the clip, but CrowdStrike does have a lot stronger financials, and their path to profitability, free cash flow, all those things is much simpler for an investor to see. So definitely from a balance sheet perspective and from a fundamental, and you think of qualitative and quantitative analysis. When I think of quantitative analysis and I think of actual numbers and facts, CrowdStrike is the stronger of the two for a lot of these metrics that we use. And when you think of cloud and venture capital, you really want that Rule of 40 to be higher. With that said, maybe it grows into that. That net dollar retention is pretty impressive, okay? Now, I'm going to say this twice. I'm going to go through this argument twice because I'm going to give you the argument. I'm going to show you some more information, some charts, and then I'm going to come back to the argument. Now, I between my Discord, my Patreon, Twitter, all the different social media accounts, I've asked multiple people, why do you think that SentinelOne is better than CrowdStrike? And there's only a few people generally that believe that, but there are people that basically think that they're sold on the fact that SentinelOne is superior to CrowdStrike. And maybe it is. Let's look at the data, okay? Because everybody's got their opinion. I've worked with both of these companies, and I can tell you which one I like better. I can tell you this before I even go further. I like both of these companies. I think both of them can do well. But the question is, which one should I buy and at what level? Now, CrowdStrike, they use EDR, that's endpoint detection and response platform. And this is one argument, that their platform relies on human analysis and analysts, that you need human interaction, where SentinelOne can use a completely AI-driven Singularity XDR, extended detection and response platform. And if you watch my last video on CrowdStrike versus SentinelOne, you know all about this XDR platform. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. SentinelOne believes that they can respond faster to threats because of their AI approach without needing human intervention. And they also have a hybrid approach. So CrowdStrike is built for the cloud. It's built in the cloud for the cloud. SentinelOne can use a hybrid model where it can use on-prem and it can use cloud. Now, for some organizations, that's going to be a huge positive. For others, it might not matter. If you're a younger, newer, nimble type organization, you probably have everything in the cloud. You don't have anything really on-prem at all. If you've been around for a while, you might have a hybrid approach. You're using some of your stuff in SaaS in the cloud, and you're using some on-prem where you have physical databases at one of your properties, at one of your locations, a server room, DBAs, things like that. So SentinelOne could actually win business for specific clients because of the fact that they are a little bit better to work with when you think of that flexibility around being hybrid, CrowdStrike in the cloud for the cloud. I personally think that you could use either, and it doesn't really make that much of a difference, but SentinelOne tries to sell it as that their hybrid approach and the fact that they use AI and there's no human intervention, that there's no downtime, essentially, and that CrowdStrike could have some downtime. And that's kind of the argument. And really, this is the only argument I ever get. So nobody can tell me that, well, I think that they're going to grow at this much, or I think that this or this or this. The argument's always that, well, I think SentinelOne is superior because they can, completely use an AI-driven model and CrowdStrike can't. Okay, well, that's fair enough, and that's your opinion. So let's look into that a little bit closer. Now, SentinelOne versus CrowdStrike. This is the Gartner Magic Quadrant as of May of 2021. You can see CrowdStrike is really the clear leader. Microsoft is hanging out up there too. if you look at that, okay, so the scale to the right, completeness of vision, okay, and then going up is the ability to execute. So Microsoft can execute a little bit more than CrowdStrike, but CrowdStrike has the most complete vision. Now, SentinelOne, you can see, is actually also in that leader quadrant. There's 4 quadrants. You got the leaders, visionaries, niche players, and the challengers. That top right quadrant is the leader quadrant, and you can see that SentinelOne is in there, but it definitely does not have as much ability to execute as CrowdStrike, according to Gartner, who are experts at this, right? And the completeness of vision, CrowdStrike has that more than anyone else. So I could look at this and say, well, I don't think I agree that SentinelOne is superior to CrowdStrike because this tells me otherwise, okay? So that's one thing to look at. The second thing to look at, now this is gonna show me the EV NTM revenue on that left-hand side, and then the bottom, you're gonna see percentage year-over-year NTM revenue growth. And what this really is gonna do is give us a comparison. Now you can see that SentinelOne is actually more expensive now than Snowflake. Now, do you think that SentinelOne should be more expensive than Snowflake? I personally don't, okay? Now, I know that Snowflake's really expensive, but I could argue that Snowflake actually has much more of a moat, especially with the data sharing model they've been doing. It's very misunderstood. I can argue that Snowflake has at least a chance of an argument for some moats. Where SentinelOne, you could argue, well, they've got the AI-driven piece, but at the end of the day, you saw the Magic Quadrant. There's a lot of companies that do what these guys do, and there's a lot of competition. Now, with that said, too, the net retention rate is really high on both SentinelOne and CrowdStrike, and you can see CrowdStrike is down here. So what you're seeing is people are paying a pretty impressive premium for the growth. Just like Snowflake, when it's growing at over 100% year-over-year revenue, it's going to get a premium over some of these other stocks that you see on your screen. So CrowdStrike is pretty expensive, but you can see it's much closer to that middle of the pack, where when you look at SentinelOne and Snowflake, they're kind of in their own stratosphere up there, okay? I mean, that's pretty expensive when you get above that 70x EV NTM revenue number, okay? The question is that premium justified or not? That's the question of the day, right? Now, you saw this earlier, the argument that I've gotten several times, and it's really the only argument for the people that say SentinelOne is better than CrowdStrike, is that CrowdStrike has an EDR, platform that essentially needs human intervention, and that SentinelOne can do it all autonomously through AI. Now, if you actually go to CrowdStrike's website and you look and you actually do a comparison, they're going to tell you that they can do the same thing as SentinelOne already. But the news yesterday is a complete game changer, and it takes this to a whole nother level. So stay tuned and wait till you see the news, this partnership integration with CrowdStrike and UiPath. All right, so CrowdStrike and UiPath. Now, these are Fired Up Wealth favorites. You can go check out, there's playlists. I just did a video on UiPath, Is It Time to Buy, at 50 bucks a share just a week ago. Go check out that video. There's that CrowdStrike versus SentinelOne video. There's a playlist for cloud. There's a playlist for AI. Go check it out on the channel. These guys are partnering up. So CrowdStrike and UiPath are partnering to secure robot-led processes with first of its kind integration. Okay, so this is really cool stuff, all right? So UiPath and CrowdStrike, leaders in the respective fields, are and this is one thing I want to say, best of breed working with best of breed. I think that CrowdStrike is best of breed for endpoint security. Gartner agrees. UiPath also is the best of breed for robotic process automation, RPA. Now, Microsoft, interestingly, they're basically second runner-up. They're the runner-up to both of these companies in their respective fields. So you think of CrowdStrike, the leader in endpoint security, Microsoft is right there in that quadrant, in that leader quadrant. You think of UiPath and RPA, you've got Path as kind of the clear leader, and you've got Microsoft hanging out in that same quadrant. Microsoft has its hands in a lot of different pots. But if you want pure play stocks, companies that are focused on a pure play megatrend, growth trend, well, endpoint cybersecurity, you've got CrowdStrike, and robotic process automation, you've got UiPath. And of course, both of them have to compete against Microsoft and others, and there's risks. And I do like SentinelOne as well, and it's growing at a nice clip, and I think there's a lot of opportunity. It's kind of one of those high risk, high reward, high flyers. I'll get to more about my opinion here in a second. Stay tuned. So UiPath and CrowdStrike, leaders in their respective fields, are the first RPA and endpoint security vendors to come together to extend endpoint security to RPA, enabling full visibility to enhance protection and speed of response. The partnership offers joint customers unprecedented capabilities to correlate events to originating RPA processes to enable and accelerate hunt threatening investigation and remediation with CrowdStrike for their UiPath environment. Of course, you know about RPA. It makes it easy to build, deploy, and manage software robots that emulate human actions. And I can go through all this and read it. I won't bore you to death, and you can read this on your own. It's easy to find. But why is this important? The reason it's important is if I say, okay, I want to own cybersecurity stocks, which is the best endpoint security? Which is the best of breed? Is it CrowdStrike or is it SentinelOne? Okay. And you say, well, I think it's SentinelOne. I think that they're superior because of the AI technology, the ability to do everything completely autonomous and not need humans at all. I think that CrowdStrike was listening. And I think that they saw that as a potential threat, that maybe SentinelOne could have been a little bit faster, and maybe the fact that it was completely autonomous, even though they said they were, let's just pretend like that wasn't true. And we'll go with what I've been seeing on social media, that why SentinelOne is superior. Now, do you think this is a game changer here? Because this not only makes it so that they can do what SentinelOne does, it's actually far more powerful as well because they can customize it a lot more than basic settings within, the SaaS software. Okay, so you think of SaaS, you think of on-prem security. The reason that some people still like it is it's very customizable. You can really do whatever you want with it when it's on-prem. When it's in the cloud, you can still customize it, but it's not nearly as easy. Now, they'll the salespeople will tell you that it's plug and play and it's easy. You don't need to do that vanilla, standardized, all this stuff, and that you can still make customizations, and you certainly can. But it's a lot harder to do it on a cloud-based, software as a service model. And so they've got some basic settings, but this is going to allow extreme customization, and it really kind of puts them on the same level. And you think of UiPath, they're already working with a lot of companies already. So CrowdStrike and UiPath, when you look at their overlap for a lot of their bigger customers, they're already working together anyway, and they're not competing at all. So it's like customer XYZ already uses UiPath, and that same customer XYZ already uses CrowdStrike for endpoint security. This is a pretty simple integration, and they can make some very powerful APIs to do some really cool stuff. So you want my opinions? I'll give them to you here. 1 second. Stay tuned. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Before I give you my final thoughts here, if you're new to the channel, subscribe, click the little bell to get notifications so you don't miss anytime there's new videos. I'm gonna start doing videos, guys, every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. We're gonna mix it up a little bit. I'll try to do some bonus videos on Saturdays and things like that as well. And what I could really use your help with, guys, hit the like button, drop a comment, try to watch this video in its entirety. And if you don't watch the whole video, you come back and watch later. The best thing you can do is watch the video in its entirety, drop a like, and drop a comment. It just helps to get in the algorithm. It helps Fired Up Wealth, the community, do better, right? And that's what we want to do. We want to try to find more people to invest in actual quality growth versus a lot of this trash that I've seen out there. And I don't want to get into a big debate on what stocks and what cryptocurrencies, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. There are quality, high growth, high risk, high reward plays like the ones we talked about today that can make you a lot of money. And as a long-term investor, I like to buy and hold long. So my final thoughts, guys, okay? I'm going to give it to you straight. This is complete real talk, okay? Bottom line, I like all three stocks. UiPath didn't think it was going to go below $50. It actually did on Monday, and here we are. I thought it would hold that $50 range, and it has done that pretty well. It dipped slightly below it, and then it kind of worked its way back up. I like that stock, okay? I do like it. I think it's expensive. I think there's risk, decelerating growth. They've been around since 2005, though, guys. It's not hyper growth. It's one that I think will do well holding long. Now, CrowdStrike, been in that one a long time. I'm up nicely on that one. Started buying it after the IPO in 2019. Was a Discord buy at like $99 or $100. Another Discord buy at $125. Now, SentinelOne, at this point in time, I don't own any shares. I do think $50 is probably going to be the floor on this thing. It went right around that $50 range, and it's trading right now. It's actually up 3.74%. It's above that like $52, $53 range. So In a perfect world, if I'm doing my quantitative and qualitative analysis, the first thing I'm going to say is that both of them are quality companies. Now, the pros for SentinelOne is it's growing almost twice as fast as CrowdStrike, and that growth could be huge because if they can keep that pace, they can grow into a nice company, and it's going to pull their fundamentals and their financials and their balance sheet, everything up with it and make it more profitable. I have a hard time with SentinelOne seeing profitability, a path to profitability. It's a long journey from here. They don't have a lot of revenue. They're burning tons of cash. The other thing I will note that I noticed when I was doing my research over the past several months on SentinelOne and comparing these two stocks is that SentinelOne actually spends way more money on research and development than really anybody else. And it dwarfs the amount that CrowdStrike spends. So you could say, well, that's probably going to catch up to CrowdStrike if they can't keep inventing new technology and spend on the R&D. And that certainly could be a good argument. That's actually a better argument than saying that SentinelOne is superior because of the AI piece, because that's such an easy thing to fix. And they just did that with the UiPath integration. So, there's some pros and cons to both. The more solid company in terms of, path to profitability and just overall solidness and growth is going to be CrowdStrike, in my opinion. Better management, slightly better management. I think both have good management teams, but I would pick CrowdStrike. When I think of moat, it's tough on that because both of them are highly competitive. There's a lot of competition, but CrowdStrike, does have a bigger customer base, and it is more well known. And I think it's closer to saying it has that safety of a moat. I don't think either have like a true moat. It's not Disney, right? So moat, it's kind of tough on both. That increases the risk. Now, with that said, cybersecurity is a huge megatrend. It's a huge secular growth trend. I think a lot of stocks within cybersecurity are going to do very well. I think both of these stocks will do really well. The question is, do I want to pay up that much of a premium for SentinelOne if CrowdStrike is truly the best of breed? Now, you can make arguments that you think SentinelOne is best of breed, but the majority of people don't agree with that. The clients don't agree with that. The developers, for the most part, there's going to be a few anomalies, but when you look at the overall pool is going to tell you that CrowdStrike at this given moment in time, end of 2021, is the superior product. Okay, so don't hate me for saying that. I'm literally just giving you facts. Okay, now some of you could say it's superior for certain situations. I mentioned earlier hybrid. If you have a hybrid environment, you might say, well, SentinelOne's the easy winner, and it probably is. But we're just looking from a high level, looking from the industry, not only from the technology industry in the cloud space, the cybersecurity space, also from Wall Street and Mr. Market. We're looking at both sides and saying which stock, is the better buy. The reality is both of the stocks are, people pay a premium. They want to own them. Institutions want to own them. Institutions and individual retail investors like us want to own them. So CrowdStrike, I like the stock. It's really expensive too. That thing would have to come back before I bought that. You could argue right now where CrowdStrike is at, and if SentinelOne's at $50, that because of the growth, maybe you have a better run with SentinelOne. That would be a fair argument. I think from a risk-reward standpoint, at this part of the game, this stage of my career, I don't need to hit home runs every single time. I like singles, doubles, and triples. SentinelOne could be a grand slam, but it's much easier for me to see CrowdStrike be in a triple. And, I know I'm going to win probably with CrowdStrike. It's going to be a double or triple. It's going to be a multi-bagger. I think both of them will be multi-baggers. If you want the risk-reward play, that's SentinelOne. That stock could outperform CrowdStrike because of that growth, especially if people keep paying that premium on the way up. There's also more risk to that because if the air ever comes out of the balloon, it's going to fall really hard. So I definitely would not touch the thing, much over mid-50s. It just came back to about $50. That's probably where I would nibble, thinking that maybe go lower. If in a perfect world, I'd love to see it in the 40s, but it might not happen. It might not happen because the market might not allow it because they're going to pay, for what they think is a quality growth stock, and they're going to pay a premium for that growth stock. So Do I think it's worth more than Snowflake though? No. I would buy Snowflake at $300 in a heartbeat before I would buy SentinelOne. But that's my personal conviction level, and you might disagree. Please don't get upset with me just because we have a different opinion, okay? It's just my opinion. I like all the stocks that I cover. If I didn't like the stock, I wouldn't even talk about it, okay? But I want to give you real straight talk and real facts, okay? I think SentinelOne stock could outperform CrowdStrike, but I think CrowdStrike is the better of the two companies, and it's the safer pick of the two that's still going to give me quality growth. So that's a long-winded answer, but I want to be just completely transparent. This is basically unedited, just giving you my thoughts, shooting from the hip. A lot of you guys like that. Definitely subscribe. Please smash the like button. Drop a comment. Check out the Patreon Discord. Check out Motley Fool. There's links in the description below. I appreciate your time and attention. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.